What's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Senior here with you. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making tonight's show a part of your evening. Coming up, lots to get to here. Positive injury news for the Birds. Going to take a look at the entire Eagles injury report going into Sunday's game against the Cowboys. We have some Dak Prescott injury news and some fascinating numbers that I want to go over. A classic Cowboys story on top of that. And I'm going to explain why this Jalen Hurts hate is really, really weird. Let's begin here, though. It's Dallas week. It's Cowboys week. One of the best rivalries in all of sports. It's a rivalry here inside the walls of Chat Sports at Chat Sports HQ. Now, some context here. The Cowboys Report, one of our first channels here at the entire company. Eagles Now, couple years later. But what I want to accomplish on today's show, put a dent in the ground that we have to make up. The Cowboys Report, north of 235,000 subscribers. We here at Eagles Now, approaching 138,000 subscribers. I think that we can get there with this video. Hit that sub button, go Birds, and you already know the deal. F Dallas. Some Eagles injury news here. Cam Jurgens, offseason back surgery, wasn't right to start the year. I don't think he's been right all season long. And then against the Minnesota Vikings, injured his knee, missed the next two games, came back against the Detroit Lions, got knocked out of that game. When he was missing time, Brett Tauth, he was playing the center spot. I actually thought he played pretty well. And so a couple of days ago when we did our Eagles-Cowboys preview, the injury status of Jurgens up in the air. I think this has taken a positive step in a good direction for him, this Eagles offense, and in particular, this Eagles offensive line, which has struggled all year, and all five starters who started opening day have only played in every snap together for one game this season. And moving forward, even if Jurgens plays on Sunday against Dallas on the road, they're still not going to have that continuity because Lane Johnson is now out. I think that's a big reason why the pass game, run game, the offensive line, it's been disjointed to start the year. But to see Cam Jurgens, who has been in concussion protocol practicing today, that obviously means that he's progressing well throughout concussion protocol. So much to the point that he was doing drills one-on-one. But the Eagles did list him as a limited participant. So we'll continue to see how this progresses, how he progresses all throughout the week. But if he's on the field and practicing, that tells me he's almost out of or is through concussion protocol. So he was a limited participant. The only player on this Eagles 53-man roster who did not participate in practice today, Lane Johnson. The Eagles need to see how that foot progresses, and they're going to have to take some time to see what exactly that Liz Frank injury is and if it requires surgery. So a little bit of time before the Eagles have to decide on whether or not they want to place him on injured reserve. Other good news here, Jalen Phillips, full participant. He was banged up earlier this week with the shoulder. Willie Lampkin, knee ankle, full participant. Miles Hinton, whose practice window was open yesterday, also a full participant here. And a big focus in this football game at AT&T Stadium on Sunday, the Eagles' interior offensive line against the Cowboys' interior defensive line. Going into the deadline, the Cowboys made a shocking move on a day where we saw a couple of blockbusters. Sauce Gardner getting traded from the Jets to the Colts for 2 first-round picks. And then after that, Quinnen Williams, star defensive tackle, getting dealt from the hapless Jets to the Dallas Cowboys. Jets getting Mozzie Smith, a 2026 second-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick. Quite the package to give up, but in Quinnen Williams' first game with the Cowboys, as Dallas had a bye week, and then the Jets had a bye week, so Quinnen hadn't played in a couple of weeks, he balled out. Context important, though. The Raiders' interior offensive line, so bad. And so Quinnen Williams was able to beat up on a bad interior offensive line, but this Eagles interior offensive line hasn't necessarily played well all season long. But Quinnen, we know that he's a really good player. I mean, he was an All-Pro a couple of years ago under Robert Saleh. This year, one of the top run-stuffing defensive tackles in football. And against the Raiders, a sack and a half, 7 total pressures, and a pass rush win rate of 21.4%. After his first sack in a Cowboys uniform at Allegiant Stadium, Sin City, Las Vegas, The cameras panned to Jerry Jones in the owner's box. He had a big smile on his face. I would be smiling as well. This Eagles offensive line has to bring it. If they don't, they run the risk of losing this football game. The Cowboys have a very fine defensive tackle trio. You have Quinnen Williams, overall PFF grade of 83.8, pass rush grade of 62.9, but a run blocking grade of 90.8 this year. They also have Kenny Clark, who they got back in that Micah Parsons trade. Better pass rush grade than run blocking grade, surprisingly, but the Eagles brought him in to be a run stuffing player, I should say. And then Osa Odigizua, he's kind of had a mixed bag this year, better as a pass rusher as compared to him in the run game, but when he's on, he is one of the top interior defensive linemen in football. On the Cowboys injury report, Dak Prescott the other day popping up on it surprisingly with a hip injury. I believe he popped up on the injury report on Wednesday. According to head coach Brian Schottenheimer, he is expected to play. These other injuries, one's to monitor. And with Dak, you got to monitor his hip injury because he's been a pretty injury-prone player of late. Dak with the hip, Jadeveon Clowney, shoulder, neck, Dante Fowler, shoulder, Malik Hooker, toe, Tyler Smith, really good offensive lineman, knee, Solomon Thomas, calf, Donovan Wilson, elbow, shoulder, Perrion Winfrey, back. And with Dak Prescott, he has enjoyed playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. He has had a lot of success in his career against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this year, he has bounced back from tearing his hamstring, and he's played really well. He's completing just under 70% of his passes, almost 2,600 yards going into Week 12, 21 tutties, 6 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 102.5. Brian Schottenheimer was the OC under Mike McCarthy, but he didn't call plays. Now Schotty is the head coach. He's calling plays, and Dak Prescott is having one of the better seasons that he's had in recent memory. And against the Eagles at home, he has been marvelous. 6-1 record. He's completed 68.5% of his throws, 283 passing yards per game, 14 touchdowns, 8 picks. So the Eagles have been able to pick him off quite a few times, but he's been able to put up some really good production. It's not just going against the Eagles. It's also Dak having success and kind of running the NFC East. Cowboys fans will love to gloat about that and brag about that. Eagles fans, we don't have to, right? Because we could just talk about Super Bowls, which the Cowboys haven't done in 3 decades. Haven't made it to the NFC Championship game in 3 decades. So the Cowboys, they could celebrate that, but look, this is an NFC East game. We know about Dak's history against Philadelphia. He's played very well against this football team, and our job is to inform all of you, which is what I'm doing right here. Insane chat stat. The last time the Cowboys lost at home against an NFC East team with a healthy Dak, November 19th of 2017. It's a really long time ago. That was when the Eagles won their first Super Bowl in franchise history under Doug Peterson, and Carson Wentz was in year 2, would have won MVP if he didn't get hurt, and then obviously Big Dick Nick Foles came in, won Super Bowl MVP, and caught fire in the playoffs. And you look at those numbers for Dak against the NFC East at home, Jerry World, 21-2, completing 68% of his throws, 276 yards per game, 51 touchdowns, 14 picks. Got to give credit where credit is due against this division. He's been really good, especially at home. You want to hear the most Cowboy story ever? You know how on Monday Night Football, we didn't see CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens start that game for the Cowboys offense on the initial drive? This is why. CeeDee Lamb said him and George Pickens missed curfew before the game against the Raiders. The two were having dinner and a few drinks at Red Rock Casino. Lamb denied that he was throwing up at the casino. He said it's a disrespectful move to even suggest that. He said he knows how to hold his liquor. So CeeDee Lamb, before playing the Raiders, admits to being out late, misses curfew, and admits to drinking liquor. There were reports, and some people were saying that they saw CD throwing up at the casino. He shot that down, who knows? But that's why him and George Pickens got benched and suspended to start that game. Classic Cowboys, kind of sounds like the Cowboys of the 90s when they were a wild team. Give me a Go Birds down in the comment section. Why? Just because. Because it's Cowboys hate week and Dallas sucks. I want to hear from everybody down in the comment section right now. Today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action, even better on Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks simple to play. You pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. This is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Join the millions of users. Sign up today. I know you all know ball, but I want you to show me. Turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. The best way to win cash all football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? With Prize Picks, you can win some big-time cash. 3-pick power play for Sunday. A.J. Brown, more than 60.5 receiving yards. He has to pop off at some point, right? It's been since that Minnesota game. George Pickens, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Saquon Barkley, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's get to this. By now, everybody knows about that Derek Gunn report centering in on Jalen Hurts, that people within the organization are unhappy with Jalen. When you're the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, you've won a Super Bowl, you've won a Super Bowl MVP, you play in a big media market and your team is struggling, oftentimes you're going to get criticized. I'm glad that Jalen knows that comes with the territory of being a quarterback in the NFL, especially for the Birds. And if it weren't for Jalen, I think a lot of this chatter, if it were happening for a team like the Dallas Cowboys, would unravel a team. But the Eagles have had to deal with this over the last couple of years, and Hurts has been the glue that has kept everything together because he's a great leader. And look, everybody wants to see this offense do better, including myself. There is so much talent on this team. They should be more explosive. They returned 10 of 11 starters from a team that won the Super Bowl last year. I get it. They changed offensive coordinators. That changes a lot, but it doesn't change the fact that the talent across the board on offense is excellent. And all season long, this has been a middling offense in the middle tier across all teams in the NFL. Yards per rush, 3.9, 25th. With Saquon Barkley in this offensive line, rushing yards per game, 17th, 115.2. Passes per game, 31st, 26.9. Passing yards per game, 184.9. That's 28th, although similar numbers last year. Overall offensive EPA, it's not awful, but it's not great. It's 15th in the NFL. And while this offense is conservative, this offense is vanilla, this offense at times is very basic, it is clear that Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, because they are constants here, despite having different offensive coordinators, have philosophical opinions that do not differ from one another. Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts want to be safe and conservative. Sometimes by design, they have a vanilla offense. And it's hard to disagree with how they approach offensive football. Why? What is the job at the end of the day? To win. And since Sirianni came here to the city of brotherly love in 2021, the Eagles have won a lot. 9 wins, year 1, 14, year 2, 11, year 3, 14, year 4, and here they are in year 5, and Philadelphia is 8-2. And the formula of playing it safe, not taking too many risks, and wanting to have a clean sheet as far as the turnover battle and winning the turnover battle, it goes a long way in deciding football games. At the NFL level, you win nearly 80% of games when you win the turnover battle. Under Sirianni, even better. They're almost unbeatable when they don't turn the rock over. The Eagles are 40-2 under Sirianni when they win the turnover battle. Since 2022, when the Eagles made it to that first Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts, as a starter, 32-1 when the Eagles win the turnover battle. Since 2022 overall, his second season as a starter, Jalen, 51-14 as a starting quarterback. Look, sometimes I don't care about the sexy numbers, the sexy highlights. like we see from Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes throwing off platform, doing all this crazy stuff. I do think wins are a quarterback stat because the quarterback is the most important player in the organization. They set the tone, they set the culture, they set the standard. And with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, this team does what we all want them to do, win. And you look at Hurts's rankings among quarterbacks this year, statistically, for all of you in this social media highlight era where everything goes viral, fantasy, betting, you want your quarterbacks to put up big numbers, right? Well, look at what Hurts is doing among all quarterbacks this year. He also has, 23 touchdowns and 2 turnovers this year? He's 11th in yards per attempt, 6th in air yards per attempt, 5th in true passer rating, 8th in QBR, true completion rate, number 10, deep ball completion rate, 5th, pressured completion rate, number 1, completion percentage versus man, 67%, completion rate versus zone, he's gotten better there, 12th, passer rating versus man, number 3, passer rating versus zone, number 12. What is the cure for some of this drama? Eagles offense has to be a little bit better, live up to the standard, play up to the standard, keep winning. And if you keep winning, it's going to silence all this stuff. And I don't think that it is a Jalen Hurts problem. If people are unhappy inside the organization with the offense, I would be too, because they should be playing better. But it's not just on Jalen Hurts as backed up by those numbers.